Magandang umaga, Filipinas. Good morning from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness, reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city is Edmonton, and we're bringing you news from across the country. Well, I've had that first cup of coffee to get me going this morning. Hopefully you've had yours too. I like mine black. What did you have for breakfast? Hope it was a good one. We're going to take a look at weather around the country today. It's a beautiful day in my city. Sunshine, we got up to 18 degrees. The street scene today, my wife, Shello, shot the street scene, so we'll just have a look at it here. Just last week, when you saw streets in this area, there was still a lot of snow on the ground, but what a difference some sunshine in a few days makes. Across the country, the temperatures in the mid to high teens in British Columbia and Alberta. Now, as we move further east, it gets cooler, but mostly sunny skies prevail across the country. Saskatchewan reported highs of 6 to 7 degrees. Winnipeg, Manitoba, near the freezing mark, that would be the cold spot in the populated areas of Canada. They had a high of just 1 degree today. Over in Ontario, 5 to 6 degrees, and that was much the same picture in the Atlantic provinces. That's a look at our weather today. We begin our news coverage this morning with a very tragic story. It took place on the east coast of Canada. Now, on the weekend, that would have been yesterday in our time zone, on the weekend, a lone gunman shot and killed at least 19 people in a shooting rampage in several Nova Scotia communities. That was before he was killed in a shootout with police. It was Canada's worst ever mass slaying. RCMP Chief Superintendent Chris Leather says police are still investigating and they're trying to determine a motive.
Please know that we continue to gather information and seek out answers. Firstly, I can confirm now there are in excess of 19 victims, both men and women, and all were adults. It appears that some of the victims were known to the suspect and others were targeted and not known to the suspect.
Say the gunman drove a mocked-up police car. He was shot dead by officers after a 12-hour manhunt that spanned the province of Nova Scotia. Among the victims, a female constable with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. She'd been with the force for 23 years. The RCMP handles law enforcement in the province of Nova Scotia. The shooter had been identified as 51-year-old Gabriel Wortman. Police believe he acted alone. Superintendent Leatherdale says there still, though, may be more victims.
However, we've been unable to fully examine the crime scenes because, for instance, we have had 5 structure fires, most of those being residences, and we believe there may be victims still within the remains of those homes which burnt to the ground. So that part of the investigation is still very much ongoing and again speaks to why we don't have a final total, because we expect that to rise in the coming days.
His morning briefing today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expressed his condolences.
Such a tragedy should have never occurred. Violence of any kind has no place in Canada. We stand with you and we grieve with you, and you can count on our government's full support during this incredibly painful time.
Trudeau added that the tragedy shows what first responders put on the line every day when they go to work.
This tragedy is a painful reminder of the risks all of our first responders take to keep us safe, of the sacrifices they make every single day to protect our communities. Paramedics, doctors, nurses, firefighters, and police officers, they're always here for us. They've been stepping up through the pandemic, and yesterday, in Nova Scotia, they showed that bravery.
Now, Trudeau hedged on when he was asked whether some restrictions might be eased to allow the families of shooting victims to hold funerals.
I think that's a reflection that communities, that the province, and that all of us are going to have. We understand how incredibly painful it is for families who've lost loved ones in Nova Scotia this past day, to imagine that they're not going to be able to see them off together as a community. But at the same time, there are thousands and thousands of Canadians across this country who've lost loved ones to COVID-19 over the past days, and others who've lost family members to cancer and to other causes, who haven't been able to gather, to mourn, to grieve, to attend funerals. This is something that we are dealing with right now that is heartbreak on top of other heartbreaks. And I know that everyone will be looking for ways to demonstrate their solidarity without putting further at risk communities, first responders, our health professionals, and our seniors.
Now, this tragedy raises the whole issue of gun control, and reporters asked Trudeau about that. Will he push for tighter regulations?
But in regards to gun control, we took very serious commitments in the election campaign and have moved forward and are moving forward on them to ensure that we're strengthening gun control in this country. I can say that we were on the verge of introducing legislation to ban assault-style weapons across this country. It was interrupted when the pandemic caused Parliament to be suspended. But we have every intention of moving forward on that measure and potentially other measures when the Parliament returns.
Truly a tragedy. Our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones. COVID-19 has claimed another 1,000 lives in Canada in the last 24 hours. The numbers, they currently stand at more than 36,000 cases and just over 1,700 deaths. Now, about half the lives that have been lost were seniors, many of them in nursing homes. In the province of Quebec, conditions at a Montreal home were in the spotlight. We told you about that last week. Well, today, families rallied outside the Residence Heron. That's the nursing home in the Montreal suburb of Dorval, where 31 people have died. Myra Davis, whose father died in the home, says she has lots of questions.
All of a sudden, these questions started flying through my head. What could we have done different? Why did nobody tell us? If they had said that they were short-staffed, why couldn't they have put the phone by his head? Why could we never do the Zoom or Skype phone thing so that we could each, my sister and I, could each see him before he passed? Why? There's lots of whys.
Davis went on to say conditions at the home show what's wrong with the way we, not only in Canada, but all over the world, what's wrong with the way we care for our seniors.
Now we are the focus of an international spotlight showing that the Heron is the poster child for what is wrong with senior health care. It's not that the Heron is unique in this. That's the thing. There are other homes, I am sure, in every country in the world where families experience similar situations.
And what is her greatest fear?
And it scares me. It terrifies me to think that I am 60 years of age and I may someday end up in one of these homes.
Scary thought indeed. To ease the staffing shortage, because this has been what's blamed for a lot of the problem in Quebec, so to ease the staffing shortage at these long-term care homes in the province, they will receive some help from the military. Over the weekend, about 125 medically trained members of the Canadian Armed Forces were dispatched to the province. In Ontario, an outbreak at a jail has forced the Ontario government to close that facility in Brampton, Ontario. It seems that at least 60 inmates were infected with coronavirus. 8 workers also tested positive. Hundreds of prisoners are being transferred to a facility in Toronto while the Brampton jail is cleaned and sanitized. It seems Canadians are in no hurry to restart the economy. We always hear from our American neighbors, from their president down south, it's time to kickstart the economy, time to get things going. But a recent public opinion poll by the nonprofit Angus Reid Institute says 77% of the people asked say it's too soon to begin relaxing social distancing and business closures. They're prepared to wait. How long? Well, according to that survey, the majority are prepared to wait it out for another 4 to 8 weeks. And the survey asked, how afraid are you of getting infected? It indicated that 61% in the latest survey are concerned they will come down with COVID-19, but that's down from 2 weeks earlier, where 73% suggested they feared being infected. Oh, and how is the government handling this thing in the opinion of the people that were asked? 2/3 of Canadians say the government is doing a good job handling the pandemic. You know, in my city, with people staying at home, there's a lot less traffic on the road. Oh, I should say there's a lot less vehicle traffic on the road, because what's happened is we have a bit more wildlife traffic. You see, animals are venturing into the city. Wildlife is coming in through the city's river valley, and these animals wander into residential neighborhoods and onto roads and freeways. More coyotes have been spotted. Deer and moose are also making the trek in. There's been no sign of bears yet, although that could happen. Not as likely, though. Haven't seen a bear in this city for a long time. But without traffic to scare them off, wild animals are certainly becoming more prevalent. Before I get out of here today, I want to do a quick movie review. Now, how many of you remember the movie Guerrero? You know, the story about the boxer. He's in a fight, he ends up in a coma, and when he finally regains consciousness, his whole world is gone. The girlfriend is gone, his mother is gone, his brother is gone. There's nothing. There's nothing. Well, the sequel, not really a sequel, well, we'll explain that in a moment. Part 2 is out. Here's a shot of the cast. Let's have a look at the cast here. This was taken at the VIP screening last fall. You know, the movie is more of a midquel because it's about his younger brother's life while he was in a coma. Anyway, the movie is up on YouTube now. You can watch it. Just search for Guerrero Das. Guerrero Das. Watch it. It's a great story, a great movie. The production in it is superb. I just loved it. And now I'm waiting for part 3 because, you know, although Guerrero Das answered a lot of the questions that were raised from the first one, this one's raised a whole lot more, which means I think there's still a lot of life in this story. So for all of my bosses at EBC who are listening, we hope you're working on writing part 3. But Guerrero Das, the second one, don't miss it. Consult YouTube. For all of you, I wish you all good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
This program is presented by
SMC Infrastructure, building a better world.
Co-presented by Canrib Corporation, your ventilation.